If you'd like to support the show, consider checking out our sponsors show. Jeff has a new show called Foolish Wits, a weekly arts and culture comedy conversation podcast. And don't miss Shattered Worlds, an original RPG podcast, which also live streams on Twitch. All of the links can be found in the show notes. Let them know you heard about them from Unspoiled. This is an Unspoiled Network podcast. This is Some Spoiled, a Song of Ice and Fire 2, the co-host Switcheroo, the rereading, Return to Westeros, HBO Spoiler Edition, Uncut, Uncensored, and Too Hot for TV, bringing you the greatest hits from 1998. Call in with your requests now. In these chapters, 40 and 41, Daenerys and Tyrion. We have Daenerys being very disappointed that all of her efforts were for naught, which I think a lot of us can relate to. And then we have the people in the streets rioting against the bourgeoisie, which I can relate to. I would love to be able to relate to it even more. I would like to participate in a riot against the rich. Everybody get on board. Choo-choo! Welcome to Some Spoiled.
Monsters are dangerous, and just now kings are dying like flies.
I am the king!
Fuck the king.
Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha.
I'm Rashawn.
So, these two chapters are incredibly different in the way, like, what parts of the story they are addressing. Because so far, I feel like we've had nice back-to-backs of mostly, like, Westeros and the War of the Five Kings centric characters who are, like, really dealing with that. But now you throw Daenerys in there. And it just kind of screeches to a halt. And not necessarily in, like, a bad way, but it's like, oh, right, you're not, like, part of that right now.
Right. Like
what did you think of this?
You'd like very much to be a part of this, but you're not actually just yet.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, as we've been reading, and I said it last week, but it's come up before, one of the things I am starting to almost reflexively look for are things that are similar in the whatever two chapters we're reading.
Right.
And I don't know if I'm just seeing things now because I'm looking for them, but it's funny to me because we have both of these, Daenerys and then the entire royal family in the next chapter going through town and having having the riffraff.
Yes.
Kind of, all in the street and having to be pushed out of the way and everything. Yep. And it just goes two very different ways. I like to check it in with Daenerys. We hadn't seen her in a little while, I think.
It's been a minute.
I think last week when you asked me who I thought we might see or who I wanted to check in on, I think I named her.
I should really keep track of what you say when I ask that question, because I can't remember what you said, and I should. That's like my job. But, sure.
But, this is so frustrating to read. Because she's so frustrated. Yeah. You guys, I don't like this place.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
It sucks to feel this way when they've been in the fucking desert and you just want them to have something nice and you're like, oh, beautiful city, everything's great, and then like, womp womp.
But everything has just got a really creepy, sinister, like when you walk into a room and then everybody looks at each other and you realize that they're all hip to something you're not.
Uh-oh.
It's like that is what this all feels like to me. Is that everybody is making eyes. And, and she knows that, at least it feels like she knows that they are not really interested in anything but the spectacle of the dragons.
Right.
Like she is smart enough to understand that. But it's really this, oh my God. And I have also had my fill of Zero.
Zeros and Doxos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And are we low-key saying that, is he gay?
He's gay, yeah.
Right? Because that was not a thing in the show.
No, in the show, he's like a real horn dog.
Mm-hmm.
Which was actually kind of a disappointment for me, because I really enjoyed the fact that he tries to act like he's lusting after Daenerys, and she's like, bitch, what are you trying to play?
She's like, I had a whole titty out, and you didn't even look.
You didn't even flinch.
Is a fucking... That's like almost a line from True Romance.
What? What's True Romance?
I'm sorry, ma'am. What now?
What is that a show?
True Romance is a movie with Christian Slater and one of the Arquettes. I think it's Patricia Arquette, but I could be wrong. Don't yell at me. Even though I don't remember which Arquette it was. It is... I love that movie so much. Oh my God. It's one of my... It probably doesn't hold up well, but I, in my heart, choose to believe that it does. It's got Christian Slater, the Arquette. There's Christopher Walken's in it. Brad Pitt's in it. Michael Rappaport's in it. The guy that plays Balky from Perfect Strangers is in it. There's like a million people.
I had never heard of this before. That's funny to me.
Fucking love this movie. Gary Oldman's in it. So the line I just said, there's a bit in the movie where two people are in a club and they're talking. Gary Oldman is playing this like Rasta wannabe drug dealer with dreadlocks.
Oh no.
And he's talking to Christian Slater, and there's a bunch of porn playing in the various TV screens decked out around the room that they're in. And he says something to Christian Slater about how basically there's titties on the screen and you haven't even looked up once.
Oh.
But anyway, that's a lot. We'll watch it sometime. I don't know if it's still good or not, but it's one of my favorites. But my point was, at one point, Daenerys is walking around with one titty out because this is the style of the time at this place where she is.
Oh, how did I not see that one coming?
And he doesn't even, like, take two glances at her. And she's saying to herself, she knows that Jorah is in love with her, and also he acts like a man that's in love with her, and Zero does not. He says he won't shut up about her being his queen, and the
love that he bears her.
Yeah, right. And all this light of my love, and they're gonna sail around the world together and
in search of the most delicious wine, which honestly, like, I'm not against.
I mean, it all sounds lovely,
right?
But and then she mentions, that he keeps a nice little stable of young men in silks that are always around.
Mm-hmm. She's like, so are they coming on our little trip too, or what? How's that gonna go?
But So she has been staying with Zero, and they have been making money off of charging people to come see her dragons, basically. Mm-hmm. And people bring gifts, or that sometimes they actually bring the gold, but when they don't bring actual money, whatever they bring her, she sells.
Right. So
she has amassed this money, and she has gone to see the what are they called? The pureborn?
Yeah.
And this is like, I don't even know. They are the descendants of the ancient rulers, and they have this like this elevated status in Quartheen. Mm-hmm. They, I guess, are sort of like a governing body.
Yeah.
which is separate from the 13, that's also like a sort of like a, I don't know, city council or some shit, you know, like these varying degrees of like these different seats of power that exist within this little kingdom. Mm-hmm. And she pleads her case. They are unimpressed.
Supremely.
You know, some of them give her no's with lots of like fancy words. Some are just like no, straight up. Some of them are barely awake.
Oh, I forgot that's sad. That is so insulting. Oh.
And it's just like a colossal. Oh my God, why is my face twitching? Did you give me your twitch?
No.
Oh my God, it's jumping.
I infected you somehow. It's the stress. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. My condolences.
What the fuck? Oh my God, did it stop?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Oh my God. But we do get a really lovely description of this throne room where she goes to like sort of beseech these people. And it is really fabulous. Mm-hmm. I mean, this whole city is about like being as gaudy as possible.
Yeah. This is what I mean when I say like, isn't this such a bummer? Because you guys know me and like aesthetics. I am just such a sucker for this. And I come somewhere super beautiful after being literally like starving to death, burning to death, whatever to death. And there's this like mirage of a fantastic city that does indeed turn out to be there. It's a real place. It's not a mirage. And everybody welcomes me and is delighted. And then it turns out they could truly not give fewer fucks. And that just bums me out so much in my soul. And I just really felt like I understood Daenerys a lot in this section. There have been times where I'm just kind of like, girl, what are you talking about? What are you doing? But this was one where I was like, yeah, no, this sucks. Because she thinks that she's found the answer.
Yeah, I mean, this feels very promising. Mm-hmm. What she needs is, she needs money so that she can get ships and that she can get soldiers so that she can get her throne. Mm-hmm. And then she shows up in this place that seems to welcome her. They clearly are just drowning in money. Yeah. And she has a very powerful man who is claiming to love her so much that he would give her anything. Mm-hmm. So on paper at first, this all seems like it's working out much better than we could have even expected. Yeah. But it's all like a show. Yep. There's no substance to anything here. There's no substance to his offers. There's, the pureborns don't have anything to offer her. She's nothing more than she's like an amusement that has rolled into town that everybody wants to go, and get a gander at because it's like something novel that's happening, and that's it. Yep. And she is, until the very end of this chapter anyway, it feels like she is really stuck between accepting that everything she thought she was going to be able to gain here is probably not going to happen. Yeah. But after wandering around in the desert for however long, like you say, it's hard to bring down your expectations because this looks like everything she asked for, And there's a moment where she's even thinking, maybe I should just take my people and go back to that dead city and we can live there and make it, bloom again. Mm-hmm. And then immediately she's like, nope, that'd be giving up. That would be admitting defeat. I should go get my... And I was like, girl, is it really, though? Admitting defeat? But she is on her path and will not be dissuaded, for good or for bad. I loved a bit too when she comes out and she's telling Zaro that like they all basically said no, and he says, "Well, did you cry? Did you weep?"
I died when she's like, "No, I'm not gonna weep," and he like clucks at her like, "If you're gonna be willful, what do you expect?"
Right.
Like
he just says, "You should have wept," and then he tells her, he asked her like specifically like who said what, you know, because she's to get this this audience. She had to bribe a bunch of people. You know, she had to flatter a bunch of people. I don't want to say debase herself, but she had to make a lot of sacrifices in order to even get in front of them. And that's how important it was to be able to take her case to them. That's how important it was to her that she was willing to do all of this. So he's like, so, you know, what did the guys that you bribed say? And she's like, the men we bought, they said no. And then he's like, they ask her if she wept, and she's like, no, you know, the blood dragon doesn't weep. And he's like, oh, no. We all believe in weeping. You know, it's considered the mark of a civilized man. I love that.
Yes.
I'm
not like mad at it, but I would love to know the origin of that.
Later on in this chapter, I can't remember what moment it is, but something happens, and we look back at Zaro, and he's got like one tear going down his
Oh my god, yes. It's like a perfect, like, this is my favorite thing that, like, I covered the Aragon book recently for Overdue, and everybody, if you would like to listen to a very fun recording, check that out. It's on the Unspoiled Book Club feed. It's also on the Overdue feed. But the one single tear thing happens so many times in that, but it's played straight. Like, it's supposed to be genuinely like, oh, one shining diamond tear rolled down her perfect cheek, you know, this kind of, and I love that here. It's like very, it's not only false, it's not meant to be seen as sincere. Which is what I find so weird about it. Like, what's the point then?
Yeah, it's like, you know, it's if you don't pretend to be so emotionally overcome, then you're like basically a savage. Like you have no manners. How dare? And so there's just a lot of her. Oh my God, what does she say? She says at one point that, well, what if I should send Sir Jorah to, like, get my shit back since they said no to me?
I love that. I wish she fucking would.
And he says this, they have something called the Sorrowful Man, or the Sorrowful Men. This is pretty cool. This is pretty cool. And apparently it's a guild of assassins, and they are called that because they always whisper to their victims that I am so sorry before they kill them.
Is that the creepiest?
I am so here for this to be its own thing.
I am, like, I would, we've talked before about, like, if somebody was sent to kill you, but they didn't even know why, they were just sent, and you asked for, and they had no answer, how insulting that would be. There's something more insulting about the person who's sent to kill you apologizing to you right before they do it. Like, I'm not that sorry. Like,
they're probably crying while they do it too.
Oh, a single tear. I'm so sorry.
So he spends a lot of time, you know, wanting to marry her and take her away from all of this, and she's trying to keep him on task. I don't want to go on a pleasure barge. I want a warship, sir. Have you not been paying attention? And
he's like, no, I've been paying attention. I just don't give a fuck what you want.
He really doesn't.
That's like what it comes down to.
So, and then we hear about like all of the treasures that she got, that she sold, and the one that she keeps is a crown that someone made for her. And she thinks to herself that she's keeping it because her brother Viserys had sold their mother's crown, and people called him the Beggar King, and she feels like, well, if I have this, they won't be able to treat me that way. Mm-hmm. But then immediately she's like, you know what? I'm still a fucking beggar, though.
Yeah.
You know, I'm the most splendid beggar, but a beggar all the same.
I just appreciate her self-awareness a lot.
Yeah.
I appreciate that she can, like, has the presence of mind to see that. I appreciate that she's like, oh, they don't give a shit about me. It's all about the dragons. Because I feel like her brother would absolutely fall for that this was about him. He wouldn't get it. You know? Yeah.
I love when she's having this reflection and she starts to think about her brother. She says almost, you know, well, not almost, she says with a certain amount of pity that it was all the years of running, of begging for help, you know, of getting food and shelter with flattery and kind of like making yourself small to make other people feel good, all these promises, and how all of that turned him so angry and so bitter.
Yeah.
And she thinks to herself, if I'm not careful, it's going to do the same exact thing to me. Mm-hmm.
These are my favorite parts of her personality, because she's just very shrewd sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's like a very subtle thing to understand at her age. She's like, what, 15, 16?
Yeah, and it comes when she's talking to Jorah about the same thing. Not the same thing, but she's talking to Jorah, and she has to remind him, okay, yeah, I was a kid, but I saw a lot, and I heard a lot, and I'm not a kid anymore. You know, this all the stuff that her brother was doing and all the things that she got dragged along for, she didn't have any choice or any agency to make her own decisions. There was nothing for her to do but observe, you know, and she's smart enough that she took all those lessons in and is able to like frame what she's going through now through the lens of all the stuff she saw her brother go through, like the mistakes he made and like the kind of deals he was trying to make, and the people who promised him everything who failed to like deliver. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like if her brother rolled into this city and Zara was like promising him all the world, the Viserys would have been like, "Yeah, I deserve it. You're goddamn right. Promise me everything, and then promise me some more." You know,
genuinely. Oh, that's so true.
You know, but
that's also just a dude way to be.
I mean,
look, I didn't mean to go there. Forget I said it.
But you know, she hears all of these promises, but never seems to lose sight of the fact that the promises are all great, but they're not what she's asking for. Also, she's having a couple drinks on this ride home from this disappointing, you know, adventure with the pureborn. And he is telling her in like this, I can't get over him. He is telling her no over and over and over again, but doing it in all of these
flowery ways.
Flowery, like, going around in circles, you know, being sort of vague. Give me ships, she says, and I'll make you rich again. He says, marry me and sail the ship of my heart. And that's not what the fuck we're talking about, sir. No.
So find out later what is actually behind this.
Yeah.
And it makes me so incredibly angry because I forgot that this was actually the like goal that he had. I don't know how I forgot this. Yeah. I like.
I don't remember if this particular plot point comes up in the show about the way the marriages work. Jorah is who ends up telling her, after they finally, like, she gets back where she's supposed to be, and all that. And she asks to see him, and he explains to her that, because she's kind of like, well, he will marry me, and that would be kind of great, because the way he's explained it to me is that I keep what I bring, and so the dragons will be mine.
Right.
They don't become like communal property just because we're married. And Jorah's like, yes, that's true. However, they have this other funny little custom
that he just failed to mention so mysteriously. Wild.
Mm-hmm. And it turns out that upon marriage, each gets to ask the other for one thing that can't be denied. And he will most definitely ask for a dragon. She could ask for a ship, and he would give it to her, but it's one fucking ship. Who is that helping? Meanwhile, giving him one dragon is like giving him the whole fucking world. So who wins with that deal?
Yeah.
And also, I don't know if this has to do with anything, but there's right before they get home, they run into sort of a guy playing with fire in the streets.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty cool trip. Best I can tell, he fabricates like a fire, it turns it into a ladder, and then climbs that ladder of fire. So that's a thing that happens.
I am dying to know, because I know that there are street performers in India, is the place that I think of immediately, who can do like, levitation tricks and stuff. And to some degree, we know how some of them are done. But there are things that I, have heard about that I'm like, how do they do it? It's obviously a trick, but I can't imagine what that consists of. And this is one of those where I'm like, is this meant to be just a street trick, or are they supposed to be actually doing magic?
Well, that's the thing. The lady, Quaith,
yeah,
comes in and she's like, "Oh, that's not a trick. This is magic."
I'm like, is it?
But
do we trust Quaith?
That's my next question. Like, do we even trust her? Because she turns around and she tells Dany that he can pull, because she's like, a year ago, not even a year, like 6 months ago, he could barely do any fire tricks with dragon glass. He had a little bit of skill, but, the main thing, also, I thought it was really funny that while he's doing all this, people are like robbing everybody. There's a bunch of cut purses in the crowd. But yeah, Quaith is like, a year ago he couldn't do this, and now he can, and his powers have grown, and it's Daenerys' fault. That's where his power is coming from. Which I feel like is selling somebody a bag of something. I don't see the connection. But she tells Daenerys that, and then she says that Daenerys has to leave the city soon, or you won't be permitted to leave at all. That feels right to me. I don't mean that I think Quaith is telling the truth. I just feel like that's right. Like, regardless of who's saying it, she needs to get the fuck out of this city, and she needs to do it soon. And she tells her this fucking, to go north, you must go south, and to reach the west, you must go east. I have no patience for this kind of shit. I really don't.
Same. You are standing right the fuck in front of me. If you got something to say that shit, or get out of my fucking face. I have shit to do.
I have zero tolerance for this. I have a zero tolerance policy, quite frankly. It's official. So Daenerys says to herself, I should go to Ashai.
Yeah.
And I don't believe the woman said that.
No. Okay, thank you. I had the same reaction where I was like, nobody said that. But she's just acting like okay. I was just like, did I miss part of the chat?
And she gets really, she's like, I should go there. Will they have an army for me? Will there be gold for me? Will there be ships? Why do I have to go there? What's there that I won't find here? And all Quaithe says back is truth. And then she fucking fades into the fucking crowd.
What good are you?
Yeah.
This is what I always want to ask people who, like, give mysterious portents.
How are you helping?
Like, what are you hoping to accomplish by telling me this?
Who
Like,
is
you're just confusing the issue.
And then fucking, who is it? Is it, Ricaro, and Aggo are both like, you can't trust that bitch. he says, better a man should swallow scorpions than trust in the spawn of shadows. And the other one is like, it is known. And when they say it is known, y'all. Mm-hmm. So.
I love the idea, like, because meanwhile, in the little palanquin in there, we've got Zarzon Doxos going, they're right, you know.
He sure does.
And I'm just like, man, mind your business. Nobody asked you.
She tries to touch Daenerys, and Jogo is like, mm-mm.
Yeah.
Don't do that. But and Daenerys says that she's got a little bit of a tingle where she touched her, which I don't care for that, but, you know, it's fine. I'm not going to read too much into it just yet.
Just yet, she says. I will later, not now.
So, yeah, so then she gets back to the house or wherever they're living, the manse. And she has a talk with Juro, and he is telling her some very hard truths that she's not really in the mood to hear. Mm-hmm. One of them is about their old friend Illyrio. And
I feel so bad about this.
She says, because Juro is like, you have to be careful, you know. There are a lot of people that you can't trust, and he says, you know, Illyrio, you think that he's a true friend, but, you know, he'd probably sell you as quickly as he could. And she says, if he was going to sell us, he would have done it. And Juro is like, he did, though.
She's like, what the fuck did you think happened? You're like, those, the words sell were literally what was said by him and your brother. Yeah. I don't know if Illyrio said it, but definitely her brother said it, and she like knew that he was right. Yeah.
And this is one of those things, I think, that happens when with the feelings that she ended up developing, it's probably very painful to remember the origin of how that all started.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, because when he says it, it says she flushed, and she doesn't deny it.
No.
She also doesn't care for his tone when he fucking says it. But there's no, like, oh, that's not what happened, or, you know, it wasn't like that. And Juro's just like, look, this guy is out for himself like most people. Mm-hmm. You know? And she's even like, well, he gave me the dragon eggs. And Juro has to be like, if he thought they were worth or even had a chance of actually becoming real dragons, do you think he would have given them to you? Mm-hmm. You know, it's just...
That's an interesting question. Like, he assumes no, but what do you assume?
You know, the only thing that makes me think that Juro might be off base, and this is just a long shot, and it's based on shit from the show, is that there was this idea, and I guess it's kind of true for the show anyway, that Varys, you know, ultimately was supporting Daenerys, the idea of Daenerys, right? Mm-hmm. And that he was in some way not in league, but he knew Illyrio, and he was able to keep tabs on what was going on with Daenerys and Viserys.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So if I wanted to really go way off the rails, I could say...
Or on the rails. Perhaps spectacularly on the rails. I'm just saying.
I could say maybe he gave those eggs to her hoping that they would in fact hatch. But dragons have been gone for so long out of this world that it just doesn't make sense to me that anyone would have expected what happened to have happened. It just feels like, the event of the dragons hatching is such a shift.
Yeah.
That no one could have really seen it coming. And so to think that he gave her those eggs knowing that they would hatch just seems like really unlikely to me. Which means that ultimately I believe what Jorah is saying as far as if Illyrio knew that those were going to be some real ash dragons,
this is not how this would have gone.
Yeah, I don't think he just gives them away as a wedding present.
Fair.
But it's fun to think that, like, he is somehow of the mind that she is the rightful ruler and that he's playing a small part in this thing, by knowingly giving her these eggs. But it feels a little too far out for that to really be what happened.
Yeah, that's one of those theories that, and I say theory, not saying that like that's an actual theory, although it probably is, if I'm being honest. But it's one of those that I feel like is sort of comforting, and that's why people sort of cling to it. The idea that like, oh, maybe it was all part of a plan, and he actually did sort of have her best interests at heart, or he believed in her, in a real way. But I tend to agree with Jorah on this one. That it was just like, it was a symbolic thing. He had no idea.
Yeah.
And I can't help but wonder when he finally hears about the fact that her dragons hatched, what he thinks
he's
about
so mad.
it. He's got to be so salty.
Yeah. I guess the only thing I would say to him is to be like, they wouldn't have hatched for you, bruh. So it's really no harm, no loss, Yep. Like, they would have been nothing but decorative paperweights as long as they were at your house.
Ouch.
So she has this conversation with Jorah, and he tells her, what I think we need to do is go east. Because you can't stay here. And she's still stuck on this idea that there are going to be plenty of people who welcome her arrival back in Westeros.
Right.
And he has to remind her that the way that she is planning on taking the throne is as an outsider, bringing an army of outsiders. And when you show up, the most likely thing to happen is that the whole land unites against you, because that's what people do when it comes to invading, forces from others.
Right.
They'll fight amongst themselves, but the minute there's somebody else from the outside shows up, all of a sudden we're all one big happy family.
Yeah, I really, because she keeps on doing, and again, I admire how shrewd she is, but then there are a few blind spots, with this, where she's like, well, I'm the rightful ruler, and he's like, they don't know you. Yeah. You're a stranger, you have never been there, you don't know them, point of fact, like, you don't know anything about the place.
He says maybe one of the things you might want to work on is trying to win them over before you even sail.
Yeah.
And that's when he's like, I don't really know how to tell you to do that, but,
yeah.
You're gonna have to. He
doesn't try and lie and say he can, like, he knows, which I like. Yeah. Anytime somebody's just like, look, I think this is a good idea, but I genuinely have no answer for you.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I appreciate it so much more. And it generally makes me take their advice more seriously.
Same.
So he ends up being like, you know what, I don't know what to do about that, but I know what you need to do next. You need to go see Pyat Pri. Which, Jorah, I don't know.
Yeah.
But, you know,
I'm not... So, Zeros and Doxos, we know that he's an untrustworthy dude, but he has such a strong reaction when she even suggests that she's going to go talk to Pyat Pri.
Yeah.
Like, he almost falls out of the thing.
Yeah, he is overcome. And he says something like, you know, how you can't trust them. I'm trying to say something about their blue lips. I know he keeps talking about. I'm trying to find out, like, if I can find the actual little paragraph, because he is not a big fan.
No. Which, I really... There's something about his reaction that makes me go, all right, so it feels like you have a personal problem with these people. So what happened? You know, genuinely would like that backstory, because it seems as if you're just salty.
Right. There's a little bit about the... what's going on here in Quarth, where there's this 3 factions. There's the Ancient Guild of Spicers, which there's a Brotherhood, and then there's the 13. And it says each vied with the others for dominance, and all 3 contended endlessly with the pureborn. And brooding over all were the warlocks, with their blue lips and dread powers, seldom seen but much feared. And that's what Pyat Pri is. He's one of the warlocks, right?
Right. Yeah, blue lips.
So...
Which is, like, when Zaro is like, you definitely should not talk to him, he doesn't say, like, he's a wizard. He's like, he has blue lips. Which I found really funny that was the way he posed the, like... That's his real hang-up. If it wasn't for that, and
then it'd
just
be fine.
Being a warlock, then fine. But we just took it one step too far here.
Yeah, so the way the structure of the power structure in the city is, you know, it's actually a lot of different people in power. Mm-hmm. You know, and they too many, and they're all like vying for, you know, ultimate power. Mm-hmm. And yet there's the pureborn who seem to be like not going anywhere anyway.
Yeah,
and
they
then
seem dominant here.
And then the warlocks who seem to exist outside of any of these groups, and also not like in servitude to any of them either. Like they just manage to be independent, which nobody likes.
That's an interesting point. I didn't really like stop and think about that, but yeah, that could certainly be like a major part of what everybody's problem is. It's just the fact that, like, well, they're not beholden to anybody, and how do I leverage against that then?
Yeah, and there's a really bit of shade there in the description, because, you know, they have this power that everybody's afraid of, but it's seldom seen. Mm-hmm. So, like, do they even really have all this power, or are we just, like, scared of them because our mom was scared of them and her mom was scared of them, and then that's how that shit just works? So I don't know. I guess maybe I'll find out a little bit more if she actually goes. I hope it's not like it was in the show. Ugh.
What happens in the show? Remind me.
She goes to the House of the Undying, it's called in the show, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. And then she just sort of walks around a lot. And then it looks like it's snowing. But is it ash or is it snow? And then that was pretty much it. That's all I remember.
Like, I don't know why that got me so bad. But
I think she sees. I feel like when we got to the finale of the show, there was a lot of talk about how this was what she saw. You know, like King's Landing crumbling, ash everywhere because she had burnt the whole fucking city, you know, down.
Right.
But when she's at the House of the Undying, I feel like we weren't sure if what it was snow or ash when it aired.
Right. Yeah.
And it's, you know, it's been so long since I've seen it, I can't really remember. But I remember this whole storyline. We talked about this earlier in this book. This whole her being in this. There's a lot of where are my dragons? Mm-hmm. Where are my? Yeah. And I feel like she ends up there at the house because they stole. I think they got their hands on them. I think at some point somebody actually gets her dragons, and she ends up going there to get them back. That's how she ends up in their temple or whatever. It was a lot of. What does Elaine say when Putty stops doing the move? She's like, it's a lot of fanfare that goes nowhere.
I don't remember this. Oh, no.
The move.
I remember the episode with the move, but I don't remember that Putty stops doing. Why does he stop?
Because Jerry calls him a hack when he finds out Putty stole his move. So Putty makes up a new move, and it's just all a bunch of fanfare that goes nowhere. And then it turns out that that's George's move.
That's right.
Is there a knuckle involved?
Oh my god, I forgot about that. And then, doesn't George try the move on some other woman, and she says it's like aliens are groping at my body? So he writes the directions to the move down in his hand because he can't remember it because it's so complicated. And George does it with his girlfriend, and it's great. But then she sees some stuff on his hand. Listen, I don't know about y'all, but if a man was really, really nailing it in bed, and I saw that he had the instructions written
he had a crib sheet,
I would be fine with it.
Same.
Like, he's making an effort, and that to me is respectable, and I appreciate it. It's more than a lot of fucking guys out there would be willing to do. Fine. Go for it.
Listen, I thought she overreacted. Mm-hmm. She was very satisfied, and it was a come up because, like you said before, it felt like aliens. So I don't know what she got so mad about. Sorry.
It's fine.
But that's how I felt about the storyline in this show. So I'm hoping that this goes a little bit,
I had
better.
forgotten how tedious this was, and I know that we actually just talked about how tedious it was. I feel like this came up really recently, but yeah, and we've sort of already covered why the show has to be this way because of contracts with actors and all this stuff, but that does not change the fact that it is super not fun to watch.
Yeah. This is it's a shame too. And again, like you said, we talked about why the show had to make certain choices, but there's been a lot of little tidbits about what it's like in this city that we just didn't get on the show. Mm-hmm. That are very interesting.
Yeah.
So forgive my shitty memory, but literally all I remember about the power structure was the fucking 13.
I'm not mad at you for that. I mean, they don't make it a priority.
So to find out that, I remember that there was some infighting and jockeying for position amongst the 13 in the show. But this idea that there are these different classes that all have power and that are always sort of at odds with each other to see who can be on top, is really interesting. And that Zorro is Zorro.
That's fair. Go ahead.
Is it's very clear in the show that he has interest in getting Daenerys' dragons as well. But I guess maybe because they chose not to include the fact that he was at least bisexual, if not just homosexual. Mm-hmm. In the show, it had much more of a he was really, coming on to her like a giant horn dog, Yeah. So it sort of made his interest in her seem like it was twofold. Where here it is. It's so much clearer.
It is so deeply onefold.
So I really like that. I think that's a really interesting change. So, yeah, it's cool.
That's the main thing about the books that I think, you'll find over and over is that even if there is something that's very similar to the show in other ways, the books add an extra dimension that makes it just a little bit more interesting. Just for, sort of superficial reasons. Like, we know that what happens here doesn't necessarily wind up being that crucial to the rest of the story later on.
Right.
But the fact that this, what goes down here, like, he just fleshes it out in a way that the show really wants there to be a lot more at stake in some ways all the time, because they're trying to keep this, like, sense of tension up. And sometimes it's just like...
it can't be all the time at 100. Well, I guess when you're doing 10 episodes, you can do that, but yeah. So that's how her chapter ends. She's gonna go see Pyat Pri in the morning, come the morrow.
Oh my god. I don't know why I hated that so much, but I think it's because I imagined you wiggling your eyebrows at me when you said it. Something inappropriate.
No, I wish I had wiggled my eyebrows. Oh boy.
So what do you think do you expect it to be like the show, or you just said you hope it's not, but like what is your prediction?
My prediction really is I don't know. I don't know what to expect. I don't know if I imagine if they tell her anything helpful, one of those things would be like, don't trust the guy you're with. He's up to no good. Maybe, like, because I don't know what their motivation is. Like, is their interest going to be trying to convince her that they can help her do something that no one else can, right? Like, because that would be a way to entangle her.
Right.
Is to say yes where literally everyone else has said no. But I don't know if that's the deal with them. Also, are warlocks interested in dragons? I feel like everybody would be, but I don't know for a fact if that's their jam.
I feel fairly confident like that it would be.
So, like, are they just going to be as transparent as everyone else and only be interested in a way to get her dragons from her? Or are they going to be bringing something new to the table? I really don't know.
Well, I guess we'll just have to wait and find out. All right. So now we have to talk about Tyrion. I can't believe how long this is going to be. Ugh.
No.
Tyrion.
It doesn't have to be that long. It really doesn't.
She pleaded. What goes on with Tyrion is just really, I feel like, written well. It's like a super high tension scene that I know what's coming, and yet I still have this like sort of pit of dread with it. I don't know if you had the same reaction, because I don't. This riot, I think, does happen in the show.
It does.
I don't remember how memorable it is.
It's pretty memorable. Well, you know what? That's not entirely fair, because I remember distinctly them getting caught in like Flea Bottom and all of this, like Joffrey getting pelted with shit, and
satisfying.
It really was. But the things I didn't remember, I couldn't remember why they were in town. Like, why were they all in Flea Bottom in the first place? Had no memory of what got them in that situation. And also, when they get safely back to the keep and Tyrion hits Joffrey several times, I don't remember that either. That was also super satisfying.
Oh, so good.
He
hits him and then kicks him.
Yeah,
He
it's
really kicks him when he's
fantastic.
down. Oh.
I don't even remember him hitting Joffrey one time in this show. And that's it. I don't remember all of this action at all.
I don't either, and that's not to say that it didn't happen, but I do not remember.
Yeah. So they have all gathered to see Marcella off. Mm-hmm. And the whole family and, like, all these guards, and it's a whole big thing. And I guess it has to be, right?
Yeah.
Which is really unfortunate.
It is not safe out there right now.
But see, like, that's what I mean. Like, it's so unsafe for them to all be on display in this fashion. Mm. But I guess they all needed to be there to send her off. I feel like that was a really bad idea, that you shouldn't all have gone down there like this.
Yeah.
But maybe it's just like the nature of being royalty that you know. I just think this is a terrible idea.
Personally, I understand your point of view, but I also feel like as royals, especially Cersei, like, they don't want to act like they're intimidated by their own people.
Yeah, I think my thing is, yeah, I can see Cersei feeling like it has to be sort of a, we're all going to go, like Tyrion even says, like, putting on a brave face, but, and maybe you just can't send your daughter off to another kingdom without, like, a proper farewell, maybe it just has to be this way.
Yeah.
It's a damn shame, though. This is just some real poor planning. And maybe they should have just, I don't know, sent her down in a little less conspicuous manner and let her get off safely and call it shit a day. Because what ends up happening is they go, my God, Tommen.
Bless him.
Tom, this is so funny, too, because it opens with, like, the girl never wept. She never cries,
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Tommen is over here. He can't shut the fuck up crying. And
he's such a little soft baby.
And we just left, like, a place where crying is considered civilized. And then we come right into this moment where, like, it's considered, like, in bad taste to cry.
I completely didn't make that connection. Oh, I love that. That is such a good point. I didn't even think of it.
So the whole family's here. Some of the very best ships they have to offer are going to be escorting her to Dorne, which is super unfortunate if, like, they should need a fleet for, like, a war or something. Mm. So we're just going to fingers crossed that doesn't come up anytime soon.
I'm not gonna touch that one.
And it's going okay. Tyrion is got a lot on his mind, and this whole fucking display. They've got the fucking Septon is there to prey on the whole fucking thing, and he won't shut up. Mm-hmm. And, it's a big, big ordeal. And Tyrion has a lot of other shit on his mind. And he is kind of just ready to have this be done.
Yeah.
He's worried about what Stannis is planning, praying that word doesn't get out to Stannis. That, their ships have gone off on this endeavor before Tyrion has a chance to put, like, his plan in place. We don't find out exactly what it is, but we hear Tyrion saying that I just need another fortnight. Just give me another fortnight. Mm-hmm. And they are building some towers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It says Tyrion's Winch Towers. I guess I'm supposed to know what a winch is. I do not.
A winch is okay, I'm speaking off the cuff here, so don't everybody kill me. But what I picture is a lever that you turn on a wheel, and that wheel goes around and pulls a rope up. Do you get what I'm saying?
I do. I don't know if that's right, but yeah, I know exactly what you're describing.
Let's see. Winch. What is a winch? Tell me what a winch is. A winch is a mechanical device that is used to pull in, wind up, or let out, wind out, or otherwise adjust the tension of a rope or wire rope or cable. Hey, I got it.
You did.
So what is a winch tower?
I guess where they're connected to go across from place to place. So maybe if you can move something from one to the other. Like jars of wildfire, maybe? I don't know.
Look, a medieval winch for hoisting loads up a tower. So maybe that's what tower... Like, I was picturing that the winch was on a tower, but maybe it's called winch tower, like... The winches are used on a tower to get things up a tower. I don't know. Everybody can chime in with us. That's fine.
Well, whatever it is 3/4 the way done. Mm-hmm. And Tyrion is like going over all this in his head while kind of like pretending that he's like in the mood for this, all of this like going farewell ceremony. And finally, it's time for everybody to go. They say their goodbyes. The ship sort of like dropped, goes off into the water. Mm-hmm. And they're going to like make their way back to their horses. And we find out as Tyrion is watching Cersei, who is like in good spirits, that he knows what she was so happy about last time we were all together.
Yeah.
He has found out her secret, which has been making her so happy, is that she has been out here trying to buy her own force of sellswords. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Naughty girl.
Yeah, she's been up to stuff. She's got a series of men with unfortunate names at her disposal. She's got someone named Sir Osmond Kettleblack.
Yes.
And he's got 2 brothers named Osney and Osfrid.
I didn't really stop to think about those as unfortunate names, but I guess you're not wrong. That is kind of a weird...
I mean, and collectively, they are the Kettleblacks.
Yes. That's their band. Collectively, we are the Kettleblacks. We'll be here all night.
So, this is what she had, cooking.
She's really feeling herself.
I was getting ready to say, she is so proud of herself. Mm-hmm. And Tyrion is like, you know what? I'm going to let her have this because she's much easier to deal with. And in his words, she's much sweeter when she thinks she's outwitting him. So he's not going to, like, fucking bust her chops about it. Just going to, like... let her do whatever she wants to do. She's going to let these guys keep taking her money. Meanwhile, Bronn is out here paying them, like, every penny that she gives, he gives. So, the Kettleblacks are actually doing pretty good, too.
Yeah. They're raking it in. And Tyrion, doesn't he say something like, they're way better at the raking it in than they are at fighting anyway? The shade.
Yeah, they were in truth much more skilled at deceit than they'd ever been at bloodletting. Mm-hmm. Cersei had managed to buy herself 3 hollow drums.
I love that analogy. And, like, it doesn't actually work because drums are meant to be hollow. Like, if it's not hollow, it doesn't work as a drum. So, that's the point. But, you know what? I started this off saying I really like this analogy. No, I don't like it. I take it back. It doesn't work.
No, I think it does work.
Because they're supposed to be hollow.
Yeah. He's not saying the men are... The thing about the drum isn't that they're hollow. The point is they make a fierce booming sound, but there's nothing inside. That's how drums work.
Oh. I feel like you didn't have to say hollow then. You could just say she had gotten herself some, like, very loud drums.
That's true.
I feel like saying hollow drums makes it like they stand alone amongst drums because of their hollowness, which isn't actually, like, That's just my weird thing. It's fine.
No, I think I get what you mean, though.
But yeah, so this whole, as you say, it feels like it's not a great idea. And Tyrion not only is distracted because he's worried about Stannis, but he's also just like thinking about the septon droning on and on. And it's like, can you fucking get this on the road? Nobody cares, dude. Sincerely, nobody cares. And
he's like, your god doesn't care. We don't care.
The gods definitely have better shit to be doing right now. I have better shit to be doing. I don't think you care about this particularly. So yeah, they send her off.
My God, Tommen is crying and Joffrey is like, basically, stop crying. You sound like a babe. And Sansa, for some reason, pipes up with examples of other, kings and princes or whomever who cried.
I adore this. Sansa is so over Joffrey's shit that even when it would be to her advantage to shut the fuck up, she just can't quite make herself do it. And that has never, that is so relatable. And it seems like Joffrey doesn't really have much to say in response to that.
Just threatening her. Mm-hmm. She says something like, and so cried after giving each other mortal wounds. And he's like, you be quiet or you're going to get a mortal wound.
So tedious.
And Tyrion is watching this as well and thinks to himself about his sister, like, how can she not see what a monster her fucking child is?
Yeah.
Which, I don't know what to tell you, Tyrion, but that's very common.
It is, right? Oh. This is, and it's mentioned that she doesn't hear. That she's, distracted in the moment, and he looks over to see if she heard, and she didn't. And I'm kind of like, I don't really buy that even if she did hear, it would bother her. I feel like Cersei is going to just say, oh, he's just talking. And she justified Sansa getting beaten. Mm-hmm. I feel like Tyrion is looking at this as evidence, and I don't think she would look at it as evidence, personally. But
yeah, I was curious if he was looking at Cersei just because he wanted to see what her reaction would be in real time. Not even that she would step in or intervene, but would she have a moment of look on her face like, oh, this is my son, or anything,
Yeah.
But she just is completely focused on something else, so he doesn't even get to see, how she. In my mind, he wants to see what her eyes do when she is watching her son be a monster, in real time. Okay. Not after the fact when she has to make excuses or whatever, but you know what I mean? Just to see the person's face, even if she immediately is like, well, he's king and he has the right to tell her that. What does your face do when you see your son act like that?
Okay.
But we don't get it because she's too busy talking about some other shit. So,
machinations that she's so proud of.
That's such a good word. So the boats are finally fucking leaving, and Tyrion starts to think about how he doesn't really have any real loyal people.
Yeah.
The best he can do is Varys, which loyalty is dubious. And he thinks to himself that he relies too much on Varys. And I should probably get my own informers. But you know what? I wouldn't trust them either. Because trusting anybody gets you killed. So, God damn it.
He's not wrong. That's basically what Littlefinger was like trying to tell Ned the whole time. Ned, I trust this guy implicitly, and Littlefinger's like, well, then you're a fucking moron.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't do that. Like, stop doing that. And then Tyrion starts thinking about Littlefinger, and we find out that we haven't heard anything from him since he left. Yeah. There's been no reporting back, and there's like a moment where somebody is like, I think it's Varys, is like, maybe he didn't make it. Maybe he met some misfortune on the road.
You wish.
And I love Tyrion is like, if that motherfucker is dead, then I'm a giant. Like, he doesn't entertain it for even a second.
Nope.
And my question is, why? Is it because Tyrion just doesn't believe the universe works in his favor that way?
I think that's 100% it.
Right?
I genuinely think that's what it is.
Because he could have. You know, a million things could happen to somebody on the road, you know? Mm-hmm. But Tyrion is like, yeah, no, that's not what the fuck happened.
I don't have that kind of luck.
So...
And honestly, I think a lot of us feel that. Where we're like, oh, yeah that thing that you just said would be nice in a universe where things are fair.
Right. Because it would be nice is how I know it's not happening.
Right, exactly. It's such an unfortunate thing, but it's so true. I don't want to think like this, guys, but I've been proven right a lot of times.
I mean, you just have to go on your own experience, right? Mm-hmm. Like, what else is there to go on?
Anyway.
So, now it's time to start making our way back to the castle. And they got their little procession, and everybody's, you know, where they're supposed to be by order of importance. And, you know, there's guards flanking everybody appropriately. And, you know, they've got the sort of guys ahead of the group, you know, moving the little people out of the way, you know, make room. And it's tense.
Yeah, it is.
It's really tense, but it's the kind of thing where you're like, if everybody just keeps their head down and keeps moving forward, we can get through this. Like, no sudden movements, nobody tick anybody else off. You know what I mean? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know?
100%.
And there's like this really weak ass, like, Hail Joffrey chant that tries to come, but this dies in the air.
I love that so. Like, somebody out there was like, you know, it's kind of like we should.
It's so good. It's so good.
Just doesn't really take.
It would have been better to like not even try, right?
Honestly, there's something about like it starting and failing that's worse.
It's so much worse. It's so much worse. It's like, because the starting and failing is like everybody was like, nah, fuck him.
That is everyone actively deciding not to participate instead of just, you know, maybe it didn't occur to them.
Oh, it's
we can
so
pretend
good.
Nobody thought of it. But once somebody has thought of it, now we have to acknowledge that nobody wanted to fucking be a part of it.
Oh my god, it's the best. It really is. And as they're making their way back, Cersei is laughing with Lancel. Tyrion notices and thinks to himself that she's probably laughing way harder, and it wasn't that funny. Mm-hmm. But she's all about, again, putting on a brave show. So this is her I'm unbothered act, you know.
Right.
Everything's great. I'm laughing, enjoying myself. I'm not, you know, stressed out about how precarious our situation is right now.
Right.
You know, I'm untouchable. I'm so untouchable that I don't have to be bothered with anything. I can, like, laugh at a joke because this is all, like, nothing to me. Mm-hmm. And then... This is so stupid, you guys. But for like a split second, all I could think was that witch, the old lady from Princess Bride.
Oh, I love it. I totally get why that was what came to mind.
But then this was like way darker, though.
Mm-hmm.
But
oh, indeed.
This woman, this poor woman, like, comes out of the crowd and just stands right in front of the procession. And she has in her arms, over her head, her dead baby.
Yeah.
This is just awful. Mm-hmm. And quite frankly, probably what needs to happen in our country. Like, because I don't know what the fuck it's going to take for us to get our shit together. But yeah, she and she doesn't say anything. She's just standing, impeding the procession with this dead baby in her hands. And it
very
looks
much the energy of like, look at what thou hast wrought.
Yeah, right. Like try to ignore this. Mm-hmm. And it looks for a second like Joffrey is just going to like ride right over this bitch. And Sansa leans over, and basically he ends up. This is unfortunate that this is her idea, but what are you going to do?
Yeah.
He ends up throwing some coins down to this woman. And the coins bounce off of the dead baby and roll into the street. Yeah. Into a crowd of starving poor people. Mm-hmm. So they're going to fight for that shit.
Yeah.
And
as far as like this being Sansa's idea, I think it's just he is about to like run this woman down.
Oh yeah, she's trying.
I'm going to do something at least better than that.
Yeah. Like, sure. And also, like, if this had been any other moment, then it's sort of like, oh, look at the good king, sparing a couple coins. What a gracious thing to do in this moment, right?
Yeah.
But the situation has deteriorated to such an extent that this crowd in this moment is way past just throwing a couple coins,
Yeah.
But the throwing of the coins into the crowd is enough to like activate them, even if it's just chasing the coin down. Mm-hmm. But it begins the movement of like the crowd, right?
Yeah.
So then right on top of this, Cersei decides to speak up, and she tells Joffrey just to leave her, that the poor woman is beyond help.
Right.
And hearing her voice does something to this woman. It's written that it cut through her ravaged wits. Mm-hmm. I don't know why. It's not like Cersei's on TV all the time and you just hear her voice and it grates. Like, I'm not exactly sure why. You know what I mean? But
yeah, that's an interesting question, actually.
Yeah, like, why would Cersei's voice be the thing? But for whatever reason, it is. And it causes this woman to start screaming. Whore, Kingslayer's whore, y'all, brotherfucker.
I love this.
I had to close the book for a second.
She just straight up said that shit.
I was scandalized. I was like, oh, word, we just throwing that word around now? King's Landing was like that? We just saying it out loud in mixed company?
I love it so much.
She starts screaming, brotherfucker, and she does not stop. And she drops the kid like a sack of flour. So, which is, I can't believe he wrote that. I can't believe he wrote that. I can't believe that's a sentence. Her dead child dropped from her arms like a sack of flour as she pointed at Cersei. And then it just, this fucking shit starts flying, like, for real, like, literally.
Yeah.
It is all bets are off after this happens. And it's just fucking pandemonium. They are throwing literal shit and trash and rocks and whatever. They get Joffrey, and he can't, just be hit in the head with shit and let it ride.
No.
So,
Not him.
No, well, and you know what? Normally, I would say that's 100% fair. Right? But, one, he deserves to be hit in the head with a pile of shit. And then two, his actions, because what he does is he ends up, demanding that whoever did it, be dealt with. I think he, sends the Hound off into the crowd to get who he thinks is the person who did it.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Because he offers money if somebody will tell him who it was. Mm-hmm. So he's just narc on your friends, everybody.
Yeah. And so somebody's like, it was that guy up there. We don't even know if that's true.
No.
We just, some guy is like, he's up there. And so then the Hound has to get off of his horse to try to go through this fucking crowd to get this guy on a roof. Holy shit. The crowd just starts going bananas. Joffrey is screaming because he feels like nobody gets to go anywhere until he gets his hands on this man that threw shit at him. Mm-hmm. Even though we all know it was probably a bunch of different people that did it.
Yeah. Oh, I would not be surprised if it was one of those pacts where it's well, if we all do it at once, they can't come after every one of us.
They start screaming at everybody. They start screaming bastard at Joffrey. They start yelling at Tyrion, who I feel like is the fuck did I do?
I love it. Later on, Tyrion finds out that they hate him most of all. And he's like, are you fucking kidding?
I
so personal.
Was shocked at that reveal at the end. I really was. I mean, it's explained in a way that makes sense, but I was so surprised. So they start screaming and yelling at everybody. Some people start sort of chanting for Robb or chanting for Stannis. Some people are yelling for Renly. Basically anybody but y'all motherfuckers.
That's so true.
And then finally, what happens is they all start screaming for bread, and it becomes really fuck whoever's king. What we want is food. We need bread. We're dying. We're starving. And
I love that.
Yeah,
how that develops over the course of this.
I love it. It says something like, one woman says, "Feed us," and then another man yells, "Bread," and then in a heartbeat, 1,000 voices took up the chant. King Joffrey, King Robb, and King Stannis were forgotten, and King Bread ruled alone.
Yeah.
Isn't that the fucking truth?
Yep.
So,
yep.
So now it's sort of just we're gonna fucking make a break for it. Mm-hmm. Fuck all this trying to leave with dignity, we're not shook.
Fine, we're shook.
Are you happy now? So then they get safe, and we realize that not everybody has made it back.
Yeah.
Sansa is missing.
Don't love that.
Right, don't love that. This Lady Tonda's daughter, who was mentioned earlier, in this chapter, we find out that she has not made it back. The septon was spilled out of his little litter, and a couple of other people are missing.
Yeah.
And then this is when Tyrion just walks over and just fucking slaps Joffrey right in the face, and then shoves him and knocks him down and calls him a fool. And Joffrey's like, well, they were traitors. They called me names. And, yeah.
I love it so much.
It's so
this
good.
Is just, I completely forgot that this happened. Because the one that always sticks in our minds is him hitting him in the yard at Winterfell,
Mm-hmm.
But this moment is just... what really gets to me on this is that even though he just hit her son, a few minutes later, somebody's like, I don't take orders from you, to Tyrion. And she's like, yeah, you fucking do.
Yep.
And I was like, wow, he hit her son right in front of her, and she's still on his side. That shows, like, either she thinks her son kind of deserved it, or she's just that scared, or both, you know?
I think it's like a mixture of both, I think she's definitely shaken up by what just happened. Because after he hits Joffrey and basically tells him that it's your fault, like, you fucking spoiled, witless little boy. And we don't know that the Hound is still living yet. So he's like, you killed Clegane, and God knows how many more. And then a couple people kind of like drag him off of Joffrey.
Yeah.
And Cersei kneels over Joffrey right then, but she doesn't like yell at Tyrion for doing anything.
Yeah.
So we find out that Lollies hasn't come back, Sir Preston hasn't come back, someone named Aaron Santagar has not come back. They realize that Sansa's missing, and fucking Tyrion's about to fuck Joffrey up all over again.
Yeah, because that is their only leverage, R.E., Jaime. So,
Yep, that's exactly what he says. If she's gone, if she's come to harm, Jaime is as good as dead. And Tyrion is like, Sir Mandon, you were her shield. What's up with that? Mm-hmm. And
Mandon does the whole, well, I was most concerned with the safety of the king. And I'm like, you fucking liar. You just ran. Don't start acting like this was on his behalf. And everybody knows it, but like...
So Cersei does pipe up, though, and she goes, rightly so, when he says, my first thought was the king.
True. Shut up, Cersei.
And I think she also tells them to go find the girl. I think that's Cersei that says that. And rightly so, Cersei put in Boros, Mera, and go back and find the girl. Oh, yeah, because then he says to Cersei, Sir Boros is like, well, if we go back out in our white cloaks, they're going to be mad at us.
Oh, shut up. You suck.
And then somebody realizes that she's here. Somebody spots her, like, within wherever they are, at the castle or whatever. And the Hound has her. He is bringing her back in. He saved her. We don't see it, but yeah.
Yeah.
He goes and he saves Sansa. And she's hurt, and also, like, traumatized. Mm-hmm. And someone lost an arm. And it's too much for her to bear.
I don't blame her. Oof. You know?
Yeah.
I have never seen real, true violence in front of my face. I feel like, I'm always like, I'd like to get in a fight. I want to beat the shit out of somebody. I have all this anger that's, like, got nowhere to go. But it's different to just be like, I'm going to shove and punch at you and just yell. Mm-hmm. Versus, like, I'm going to watch your, like, internal fluid spill onto the ground and body parts hit the pavement. Yeah. Like, I don't think so.
It's so wild. I was talking to my cousin, one of my cousins recently. We were talking about something that was really, like, didn't have anything to do with it. And then it sort of segued into violence, right? Mm. And he was telling me about his kids, and even his own experience, how many friends that he personally has that have been killed. Ooh. And then he started telling me about his kids. He's got a couple of kids, but his oldest ones are like 23 and like 21, I think. And both of them, especially the oldest girl, they, like, as teenagers, buried so many of their friends because that's just how much gun violence, especially, there is here in Philadelphia.
Yikes.
And he was like, by the time she was 18, she had buried 5 or 6 friends. Like,
oh my God.
I cannot imagine what it is like to live. And right now, not to get way off subject, but right now, like lots of places across the country, Philadelphia is experiencing just bonkers rate of gun violence, you know. The other night, I think we had, one night last week, I think we had 7 different shootings in one night.
Jesus Christ. I didn't know it was that bad. It's
pretty bad. But, you know, and I think, I don't have to think about it often, thank God, but like what people are living through, kids are going to school every week, losing like somebody on their block or whatever that weekend. It is just unimaginable to me. Yeah. So yeah, when you talk about like, I know this is like, you know, a dopey book or whatever, but when you talk about like how most of us, you know, in this country at least, you know, it's different around the world, but for most of us in this country, we don't really deal with violence up close, like, you know, of really of any, you know, especially like not fatal, you know, if we're lucky. We get to be removed from it, which is such a blessing and a privilege, you know, because, you know, so that when you do see something, yeah, you should be fucking traumatized, you know? It should fuck you up. You shouldn't just, like, bounce back and go to school on Monday, you know? Yeah.
You're right.
And it's right. You know, and it's weird because you read this chapter, we're talking about, like, everything that happened as they're trying to get safely back to the castle and what's going on with the crowd and the woman with the dead baby, you know. And everybody is sort of shook, but they are all also, they kind of get back, and it's like, you know, okay, well, what do we do next? And then here comes Sansa with, like, the only actual appropriate response to what the fuck just happened.
What is it that she says? I'm trying to find the spot.
She is just like, as if she's hurt, and she's just like, they're throwing things, it was rocks and filth. I tried to tell him I didn't have any bread. A man tried to pull me from the saddle. The hound killed him, I think, his arm. And then her eyes widened and she put a hand over her mouth. He cut off his arm. So whoever was grabbing for her, you know. And thank God, because we find out in a minute what happened to Lolly's. Which, Jesus fucking Christ, did we need that extra layer of brutality?
Yeah.
I don't think we needed that.
This is one of those, like, one of them questions with these books that people ask a lot. It's like, well, how much did we have to know about that part? Yeah. And it's always a question worth asking, and there's not really a simple answer to that.
I feel like we got plenty. Like, I don't know. It's like two sentences. How much would the book have suffered if we just didn't have those 2 sentences? You know? But there they are, so, you know. Ugh. Yeah. So, eventually they send, like, people out because they've made it back safely. But now, as what happens in these exact type of situations, a bunch of shit is on fire now. And that's a real problem for a city that's got wildfire stashed everywhere.
Yeah, that is in it. Tyrion is immediately like, oh God. Guys, whatever happens, it cannot reach the fucking alchemists. Do you understand? No, seriously. Yeah. And it's bad enough, like in this, like, you know, era to have a fire because there's so little infrastructure to, you know, there's no plumbing, there's no way to get water quickly, so it's already terrible. But like the wildfire adds a whole other element.
Tyrion sends Bronn out and says, "See that the water cannons are not molested," which sounds like make sure people don't use them,
or make sure that like. Maybe it is make sure people don't use them because maybe he's keeping that around for wildfire. Like, you know, if there's something goes wrong with it, he wants to make sure that the water cannons are available. But we know that wildfire like burns even if there's water. Anyway.
So maybe he just means like make sure they're not like damaged.
Maybe.
I don't know. It's just a weird phrasing. Make sure they're not molested. And then he thinks to himself like, oh my God, the wildfire. So he sends people out. He sends the Hound out, and the Hound has a look on his face, and Tyrion immediately is like, "Oh shit, that's right, fire."
Yeah.
But right away, the Hound is like, gets his shit together. It's like, yeah, I'll go because I gotta go find my fucking horse.
I love him. Like, he sucks, but also he's great.
So,
What?
There's like people that don't want to go because they're punk ass bitches. there's people still talking about their goddamn cloaks. Tyrion wants Shagga. He's got this thing with son of Timid that happens, and it's just like Tyrion is so tired.
I can't imagine. Just like, this is the kind of thing that always occurs to me if people want to be in power. It's just like, you think that you're going to be able to just do shit, but you don't factor in the fucking morons you're going to be surrounded by and all of the just herding cats that you have to do.
Yep.
Yeah, no thanks.
People never think about that part of it.
Hard pass.
And he's just like, I would just wish I was fucking Shay right now. But instead of doing that, I'm doing all this bullshit with all you fucking Malooks. And you're just fucking he's so over everybody.
Yep.
And I think he wants Shagga to go and make sure that Shay is safe while all this, stuff's going on. And he's like lying to himself that like, yeah, I'll be over later. But he knows good and well he's not going anywhere.
Yeah, that's
tonight,
not how that's going to happen, buddy. Sorry.
And then finally, he's back up in his room. They bring him dinner. And this is when he gets like the rundown of what happened to everybody who didn't make it back. We find out that several people have been just their heads crushed in. One guy, it was hard to find because he'd been stabbed and hacked at so cruelly that it was just like a red to brown stain where a person should be.
Yeah.
We find out what happened to Lady Tanda's daughter. One of the Lannisters, someone named Tyrek, is still missing. The Septon did not make it out.
He gets ripped apart.
Yeah. It almost sounded like they were going to eat him. For a second, I thought they were going to say they ate him. What does he say about the Septon? He says something like, when people are starving, they don't take well to a well-fed...
To a priest that's too fat to walk.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. I love at one point somebody's like, we'll find the Septon's crown. And he's like, I do not give a fuck about that fucking thing, okay? He's just like, he's so angry. He has servants that just come in to light a fire and he like screams at them and just like gets them gone.
When Bronn and whoever else comes up to the room, he's just sitting in the cold room mad, not eating.
Yep.
He wants this Tyrek found, either way, dead or alive. He wants him found and brought back because his uncle was very nice to him, he says.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think it's Bywater who was talking to him, and he's like, we managed to hold it together today.
Yeah.
But it's not looking good for us, and I don't make no promises for tomorrow.
And I love it. Tyrion's like, well, so do you just need more men? And he's like, I need, like, not only more men, but, like, better men. Do you have any guys that are actually trustworthy hidden somewhere? Because these motherfuckers are not my type.
He's like, I can't trust the motherfuckers I got now.
Yep.
They are fucking brutes. This too, you guys. This part too. He says that there are good men, among the new recruits, but there's also more brutes and more cravens and more traitors. And, I'm not going to get too far off because this is going really long. Mm-hmm. But, whenever we have these moments, where we end up opening the gates, like we need more, I don't know, cops, say.
Yeah.
And you start opening it up to just anybody, you start getting, the quality goes down, let's say.
Yeah.
And what he's talking about is, when all you are interested in is having is bodies, then the kind of bodies you get are probably not going to be top quality. Mm-hmm. And he's saying, the guys that we have, they're half-trained, they're not disciplined, whatever loyalty they have is to their own fucking selves. If a real battle came, they're going to bounce.
Yeah.
And Tyrion says to all of this, I never expected them to.
Yeah. What do you think? He's like, yeah, if they get through, then we're fucked. That's it.
Yeah. He's always been really... is pragmatic the word I want for this?
I feel like that works.
I feel like that works, yeah. And then we find out what the deal is about how... what the people think of the Lannisters individually.
Yep.
We find out that, even though they hate Joffrey and they know he's cruel, he's still a child.
Yep.
So a lot of his bad behavior gets chalked up to just having bad advisors. And
Cersei was around when things were good.
Mm-hmm.
They say you exiled Janos Slynt because you found him too bluff and honest for your liking.
Can you imagine?
This is Facebook. Well, you spoke truth to power and they didn't like that. What happened to free speech? I swear to God. They say you threw wise and gentle Pycelle into the dungeons when he dared raise his voice against you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. Now, what I find this interesting, or what I'm curious about, is how much of these feelings that the common folk or the small folk have, these opinions, are they being fed these lies, or is this just what they honestly think? Like the stuff about Slynt and Pycelle, right? I guess really it's not that complicated. There are all kinds of people that would work in the castles that are not, work in the kitchens or work here, work there, whatever. And we know that, news travels and that it is not reliable and that wild stories happen and all that kind of stuff, right?
Right.
So really, it's actually, now that I'm talking it out, it's not that much of a stretch of imagination because people are really quick to, latch on to whatever information confirms what they already believe.
Right.
Right?
100%.
So they already have these feelings. They already, and they don't like Tyrion. As he says himself, he's a monster, he's a freak, and we are quick to think unkindly about people, Mm-hmm. So... yeah, it doesn't take. Yeah, I was about to say this seems weird that they would have these specifics and think it was all Tyrion's fault. But as I say it out loud, it's not that weird at all. No. It's really not. That's such a shame.
It's so human nature too to pick a person and just hang everything on them because it makes it so simple and it makes you feel like you've got some control over something.
Yep. And like you just said a second ago, he's the most recent arrival. Things were better before Tyrion got here. Now we all know it's not because Tyrion's there that things are bad, but from where they are. We had a king. We had food. Things seemed like they were okay. You know, the king died, you showed up, and now look at us. We don't have nothing to eat.
Yep. And I mean, if I were in their position, I don't know that I would think any differently. We know how smart Tyrion is and how much compassion he has. But why should they?
Yeah.
You know?
There's literally no reason for them to know any of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Bronn comes, lights a fire, sits down, eats Tyrion's dinner, and Tyrion is trying to be like, oh, you are taking too many liberties, sir. It's too late. You can't walk that shit back now.
You just can't. He's like, normally I find this kind of endearing, but I am not fucking here for it tonight. And Bronn, not only is he like, let me just eat your dinner real quick. He's like, I'm just going to float this idea, but what do you say about maybe murdering Joffrey?
Yeah.
And
I
it's
love
like, not,
that.
he doesn't say it, but
I
that's
love
so
it.
clearly what he's doing.
He's just like, you know what? As I'm eating your food, shit sure would be easy if the other one had been born first, don't you think?
Yep.
The weepy one. He seems like he'd do anything. Like a good king should. And it's just like...
The weepy one.
It's so nice. It just like slips right in there. It's really beautiful. And I cannot remember... Oh, Varys is here. That's who the other person in the room is. I cannot remember if that idea comes from Bronn in the show or not, but... I love that it comes from him here. And Varys is like, gentlemen.
I love that Tyrion has this moment of just being like, God, that would be... No. Oh my God. I can't even consider... Oh, no. And then he tries to be like, well, that's treason. And Bronn's just like, man, Tyrion, you have really lost control of this guy.
It's just like, I love that he thinks he can like put the genie back in the bottle at this point.
When a man is laughing at something you said and spraying your own chicken into your face as he does it, I feel like that's really, it's too late now. Sir.
You know, he has lit your fire, he is eating your chicken, he is drinking your wine, and he is laughing in your face, and he's also giving you the best idea you've had in weeks. So...
True enough. It is kind of surprising that hadn't occurred to Tyrion at all. Because, like, come on, guy, get on with the program with the rest of us.
Yeah, it's. I guess he's just not, or doesn't consider himself to be that cutthroat just yet.
Yeah.
You know. That there's like a line that he feels like he doesn't have any intention of crossing until he crosses it.
Yeah, he's like, I'll beat him up in the yard in front of everybody. So, and then, at least from the way the show goes, we know that Tyrion doesn't have to end up doing this at all. But so maybe that's why it doesn't come up in the show. Maybe it did. I can't remember. But yeah, anyway. All right. Well, real quick before we wrap, because it's super late, I want to say hi to Patricia Poblete. I hope I'm saying your name right, Patricia. But welcome. She just became a patron, and we are very happy to have you, and I hope that you are enjoying the community. And I want to let everybody know that I have been banned from Facebook. By the time this episode goes up, it will be gone, but I anticipate it will happen again shortly. So if you are trying to get in touch with me, I apologize if you got in touch on the page. I can't reply to you. So if you can email me at unspoiledpodcast@gmail.com for anything, messaging on Facebook on the page does not work. And messaging privately, I just don't check. So, and if you don't feel like using email, you can go into the Discord and tag me in the Discord, because I'm in there all the time now. And speaking of which, Discord is available to everybody. It's not patrons only. So if you are interested in becoming part of that community and chit-chatting with everybody, I have a Song of Ice and Fire spoilers and no spoilers channels. So... yeah, you guys can come and chat, laugh at Rashawn's incorrect predictions, or be like, oh my God, I can't believe she got that right. And yeah, it's a fun time. There's also channels for like everything else that I'm covering, spoil me stuff, and general channels for overall chat and whatnot. So that's it. All right, guys. Well, thank you all again so much for listening. We love you. I hope that you are enjoying it. And we will be seeing you again soon with a new episode. Until then, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye, guys.
Joffrey, Cersei, Walder Frey, Meryn Trant, Tywin Lannister.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.